All right, today we are talking about book number 10 in the Jack Reacher series, The Hard Way. And I feel like this story kind of gets lost in the mix. You don't really hear it talked about as much as some of the other books that really stand out. And while it's not in my top five Jack Reacher novels, it is a solid Jack Reacher story. It has all the elements that you want from a Jack Reacher novel. It has a great antagonist, actually, several great antagonists, fantastic mystery to be solved that Jack doesn't fully work out until the final act. It's got action, hot and heavy one night stand or maybe 1 week stand romance, fight sequences, and a million twists and turns, which are the hallmarks of a great Jack Reacher novel. So don't skip this one, folks. Although you don't hear as much about it, it is really good. So, with that being said, I'm going to jump into some spoilers. So, if you haven't read the book, I encourage you to go check it out and then come back later. But if you have read the book, stick around and we'll get into some things that I particularly enjoyed. All right, so one thing that was a little different about this book, how many times they used the title of the book in the dialogue. They must have said the words, The Hard Way 150 times in this story. No, it wasn't that many times. But definitely more than other books. Sometimes books don't even mention the title at all, but this one goes hard on it. No pun intended. I think the thing I like most about the book was how many times the story took a turn and became about something else or someone else. Like, it's all the same idea, right? It's a kidnapping or supposed kidnapping, and you're trying to figure out who is the perpetrator, why it happened. But so many things change throughout the story. First, you're trying to figure out who the perpetrator is, and then you're trying to figure out why. Why is this guy being targeted and his wife and child at the center of it? What did this guy do? Who did he wrong? Why is someone after him and his money? Then it becomes just like a race against time, right? To try and save this woman and her daughter so that they don't end up dead like the villain, the antagonist, Lane's first wife, who was kidnapped and murdered. At one point in the story, they assume that like all is lost and the kidnappees were dead, and now they're just trying to figure out who kidnapped them and killed them so that they can get revenge. Then Jack and his partner, the female lead in the story, figure out who the perpetrator was, track the guy down, and it turns out he couldn't be the perpetrator because he's basically on his deathbed. Then you start to wonder, did Lane have his first wife killed? Is he doing the same thing again? Why the hell would he do that? Then the revelation comes towards the end that they weren't kidnapped at all. They ran away and staged the kidnapping. So many twists and turns, as much or more than any Jack Reacher novel that I've read. And I think that's the main reason I enjoyed the story so much. So many twists and turns. In addition to that, I thought it had a pretty strong female lead. I was surprised, though. The first female that they introduced in the story did not end up being the female lead. I thought, sister of the woman who was kidnapped was going to be Jack's partner throughout and, like, help him solve the case. But it ends up being not her and not the detective that she knows, but another woman completely who's a former FBI agent. So all kinds of, like, misdirections and, crazy left turns in the story. But I think the best part about it had to be that finale. The bloody, violent Lane meeting his end in the way he did. Yes, Jack Reacher doing what he does best, taking out the bad guys one by one. It was classic, glorious Reacher. And this is another one that I think would adapt really well to film. I hope they end up adapting this one for the Amazon series at some point. I don't know how likely that is. As I said, this is not one of the more talked about or popular stories, and there are plenty of fan favorites that will likely be adapted first, but I think adapting this one would be a good idea because even of the Jack Reacher fans, they might not be aware of this story. It's not one of those declared must reads. So some people may not know how the story ends or they may not remember it. And the ending, as I said, the best part of this novel was the ending, 100%, which is not always true for Jack Reacher novels. Sometimes the ending, especially lately in the last few years, has not been the strongest, but this one has definitely got it where it counts. And where it counts is the finale. Anyway, I'd love to hear what you guys thought of The Hard Way. I'm getting super excited to get back into these reviews again. I'm all hyped because of the season 2 of Reacher has finally been announced. It's going to come out in November on Amazon Prime. So stoked to see them adapt Bad Luck and Trouble for season 2, that is one of my top 5 Reacher stories. If you haven't already checked them out, I've done about 20 Jack Reacher novel reviews on the channel. You can check those out. They're in a playlist called Jack Reacher Book Reviews, and I also reviewed each episode of the first season of the Amazon series as it was coming out. So that's in a playlist of its own as well if you want to check it out. Next up, book number 11. I can't remember which book that is right now, but I will be digging into that again here soon, and I'll be back with another review definitely before season 2 of Reacher premieres on Amazon. If you enjoy my Reacher reviews, or if you enjoy pop culture and entertainment as much as I do, please subscribe to the channel or favorite or follow Daily BS Podcast, because this is what I do. I talk entertainment and pop culture all the time, anytime, as often as possible. So if you're into that, please stick around. And if you do decide to stick around, then I will talk to you again very soon. Thanks.